What's up everybody? This is Whiskey in the Six. I'm Rob, doing the top 10 most reliable whiskey distilleries in 2022. Now, there's a couple that would have been on the list a few years ago that in recent years have just not been releasing quality that I've come to expect from these particular distilleries. So they are no longer on my top 10 list, and maybe they would fall below the top 20 to be honest with you. These two distilleries in particular that I'm thinking of are the Amrut Distillery. I've had a lot of duds coming out of Amrut the last few years. I was really impressed with Amrut early on in the channel. These last few years, I've had some expressions from Amrut that I just really wasn't impressed with. So unfortunately, they do not make the reliable list. Highland Park is another one that I was a big fan of for many years, and just in recent years, they have not produced what I've come to expect from them. The no age statement cask strengths that I just don't appreciate, as well as some of their other recent expressions, have just not been the biggest fan. All right, let's cut to the chase here with number 10 being the Lagavulin Distillery. Now, a big weight on my top 10 list here is reliability. Lagavulin is always reliable. They have quality whiskeys. Doesn't matter which one you pick up, you're gonna enjoy it. I've never had a bad Lagavulin whiskey. This distillery just continues to pop out gems. Now, my only, I guess, drawback and why they fall so far down on the list is because the fact that they're not super innovative when it comes to what's happening in the market right now. You don't see a lot of new casking or different expressions. You just see their usual standard expressions, which absolutely nothing wrong with, but I think I want a little bit more from them than a Guinness expression. I think they're capable of more, but excellent stuff. Coming in at number 9 is the Daphnel Distillery. Now, Daphnel is incredibly popular amongst people that are Scotch savvy. Not a ton of people outside of the Scotch geek community know exactly who Daphnel is, but they are growing in popularity. Their stuff is crazy on the secondary market, and I haven't had a bad expression from them. Everything I've tried is great, if not absolutely excellent. So Daphnel had to be on this list. Number 8 is the distillery that produces Redbreast. Now, Redbreast, I'm talking Redbreast in particular here. Other things might be produced out of that distillery, but Redbreast is excellent. If you go to their core range, all great stuff. Obviously, I'm not the biggest fan of lower ABV stuff, but there is a market for it, so you can't knock them for putting out a 12 at 40% as well as a 12 at cask strength. I love the cask strength. The 15 is excellent. The 21 is excellent. And honestly, they really don't disappoint when you pick up a Redbreast. So that had to be on this list. Great Irish whiskey. The distillery that produces Redbreast, number 8. Now, before we go any further, I want to give a couple honorable mentions. Earlier, I gave you a couple of distilleries that didn't quite make the list because they just have declined over the years. These next two distilleries, I expect big things from in the future, and I couldn't technically put them on the list for various reasons. I'll tell you why just now. The Bimber Distillery. I've only tried a couple things from this distillery, but so far, all incredible whiskeys, and I'm really impressed with what they're capable of with a short amount of time. These guys are coming out of the UK. They're just producing excellent whiskey, and they have to be on the honorable mentions. Another honorable mention is the Two Brewers Distillery out of Yukon, Canada. This distillery just continues to impress me. I haven't had a bad whiskey coming out of there. The only reason they're not in the top 10 is because their production is a lot lower than most of these distilleries, and they're not getting out to the global audience just yet. They're starting to, it'll be coming soon. They probably will be on a list like this in the near future. So if you're new to this channel, this one might be a surprise to you, but if you've been following this channel for quite some time, you know that I'm a big fan of the Shelter Point Distillery. This is my number 7 distillery. Honestly, Vancouver Island is producing some incredible whiskeys, and Shelter Point Distillery in particular is just putting out banger after banger. When I thought I was fully impressed and I couldn't be further impressed by this distillery, this year in particular, I tried their new single malt and their Ripple Rock. Their newer expressions, they were just produced this year. Honestly, incredible stuff. I have a lot of good things to say. They've exceeded my expectations from the previous single malt, the previous Ripple Rock. I just can't wait to try the other stuff that's going to come out this year, because Shelter Point is continuing to put out awesome whiskey. They're getting on the global scale now. They have the capacity, the barrel storage, all these different things to supply a larger audience. So look out for Shelter Point, because they're going to be an amazing distillery in the years to come. Number 6 is the Buffalo Trace Distillery. Now, obviously, I'm not the biggest bourbon fan. A lot of you know that if you're part of this YouTube channel, if you've been watching this YouTube channel for quite some time. But you got to give credit where credit is due. Buffalo Trace just puts out incredible whiskeys on a yearly basis. Their standard Buffalo Trace is an excellent whiskey if you're a starter to whiskey. Their Weller line is all great stuff. Their Buffalo Trace Antique Collection is all stunning whiskeys. I honestly really enjoy their stuff. Accessibility is obviously the biggest problem, but you can't really hold that against the distillery in particular. Their pricing is very fair, and they're putting out quality stuff every time. Obviously, there's a few expressions that I'm not a fan of, but almost everything you buy from them, you can buy blind and enjoy. So Buffalo Trace had to be on this list. Number 5 is my favorite Asian distillery at the moment. It's got to be the Lagavulin Distillery from Taipei. Just incredible whiskey. Honestly, you will find the odd whiskey from Lagavulin that doesn't fully impress, but for the most part, they're putting out banger after banger. And yeah, the price is up there, but what they achieve in a few years, most distilleries can achieve in 10 years of maturation. So the Lagavulin Distillery had to be on this list at number 5. Number 4 is the Glenallachie Distillery. Now, this whiskey is dear to my heart for many reasons, mainly because when I was worried about the direction that Scotch was going in, these guys came out and started putting out incredible stuff. Their 10-year-old cask strength blew me away. Their 12-year-old is an annual release that just, honestly, I recommend to every single person that I know that wants to get into whiskey. So the Glenallachie Distillery continues to put out banger after banger. Do they have some stuff that you can avoid? Absolutely. But if you stick with their core range, you cannot go wrong. Number 3 is the Arran Distillery. Now, this is a company that I probably wouldn't have put on the list 3 to 5 years ago. Actually, I wasn't the biggest fan. But the moment they changed their bottle was the moment they won me over. And it wasn't because of the look of the bottle, although I do really enjoy it. It was because what happened inside the whiskey changed as well. They went to a whole different level of quality with their 10, their 18, their 21, just incredible stuff. I've been really impressed with what Arran has been putting out. Thoroughly impressed me. I really love their 18. I highly recommend you buy the 10 or the 18. If you're sherry, pick the 18 because that one is just incredible for the price. The price is right, the bottle's beautiful, and the whiskey is incredible. Number 2 is the Laphroaig Distillery. Now, not everybody's favorite because it's heavily peated, but it's one of mine, and for specifically that reason. But not just that, it's consistent, yes. It's great whiskey, absolutely. What I love most about Laphroaig Distillery is that they are trying innovative ways to impress a broader audience. They come out with their cartridges every year, always different. Their 10 sherry in recent years really impressed me. Some of their other stuff, excellent as well. Honestly, Laphroaig Distillery is, in my opinion, despite being a huge distillery, super underrated. Once you get into peat and you start to really enjoy peat, this distillery is undeniably good. Obviously, there's people that just don't like peat and can't agree with it, and I respect that. But if you are a peat fan, you cannot deny the quality of a Laphroaig whiskey. Okay, so a little shout out to my friends from Whiskey Mystery here, another YouTube channel. They are on their way, as you can see in the background here, to the number 1 distillery, and that is the Springbank Distillery. When I talk Springbank, I'm including all the sister brother companies like Longrow, Hazelburn, and Kilchoman. Over the last several years, Springbank has become my favorite distillery. I get everything I can from these distilleries. Just incredible, beautiful expression, family owned, high quality, exactly what you want in a whiskey. Availability is becoming a big problem nowadays, but they can still not be denied. The quality that's coming out of this company is outrageous, and I buy pretty much everything they release blindly. And have I had some not so good Springbanks or Kilcairns, Longrows, Hazelburns? Sure. 98% of the time they're absolutely incredible and they knock it out of the park. Springbank Distillery is every Scotch geek's dream distillery that I've talked to in the last few years. If they haven't discovered it, it's going to be their favorite soon. There are very few people I know that are huge Scotch geeks that don't like Springbank, and that's why it had to be my number one. All right, so there you have it. That is my top 10 most reliable whiskey distilleries in 2022. I hope you got something from this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you really liked the video, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. You can follow this channel on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and you can support this channel on Patreon. Cheers, everybody.